right. Well, I actually wanted to Nick's on here, so Nick's gonna come up here and he just got his first deal today. So that's very exciting, and I wanted him to come in here and just talk about a little bit about his first deal. I was the buyer. It's a flip for me, so that was also good for me. But the guy did all the work himself. I didn't close it. I didn't do anything. I just kind of helped him. I don't even know what I did. I did nothing. Oh, I helped you with the price, right? That was pretty much it. You were like, do you think this is a good price?"
Yep.
And that was it. Okay, so Nick, do you mind telling everyone a little bit of your story, like how you got into real estate, what you're doing for your 9 to 5, because I know you have a 9 to 5, so you can do this with a 9 to 5. Jay knows that. Jay Varney actually owns a brewery around here in Jacksonville Beach, and he's been doing the brewery and this, and he's been getting some deals too. But yeah, tell us your story and tell us how you got the deal and tell us all the juice.
Okay.
Because people who don't have their first deal yet, they want to know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So my 9 to 5 is I work for, I'm not allowed to say on social media or anything. I work for a big bank here in town. I code automation for mortgage banking. I've been in the mortgage industry since 2004. I've experienced the 2008 crash. I didn't take advantage of that financially, but I wish I did, looking back on what I know now. I've always wanted to get into real estate on my own, do flips, wholesaling, whatever I could do to get into the business. 2019, I attempted to do a flip, and then the COVID wave hit, so I had to dispo that deal very quickly for what I could make because it made me very nervous. After 5 years, I said I'm going to go back into this business. So I said I'm going to do wholesaling. It seems like a possibility to do with my day-to-day job. Um, and also, I build new construction homes in Arkansas, which is a very random place to build, but I have a trusted builder. He does a great job. I don't have to be there, but once or twice during a build. And we are doing a 20 house development starting in September. So that's my second job after my 9 to 5.
Wow.
And then for some crazy reason, I decided locally I wanted to do wholesaling to make more money than the 20 unit development. So what I did was I started interviewing lead generation companies. I started doing CRM research. I probably have notes from 15 to 20 each to see which one was going to be right for me for what I wanted. I went with Data Syndicate for my lead generation. Good place to start, which is public records. Kind of
That's
channeled conversations
courthouse
you're going to be
data. Yeah,
yeah.
courthouse data.
So you're going to be having channeled conversations. And when I say channeled, when you go into the lead, you know exactly what's going on with the house. So the motivation per se is somewhat taken care of for you going into the conversation. I used a CRM that was proficient in courthouse data. So they send text messages and emails, and I'm cold calling all of the leads myself. I think I'm up to 700 leads right now that I've called once, twice, maybe even three times, depending on the different queries that I'm building for myself. Um, just grinding. Honestly, the first week I sat there and I looked at my CRM. I had no clue what to do. I was just looking at accounts. I never once clicked call. By the end of that first week, I called two accounts. The next week, probably 2 days into the week, I started just clicking, 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 calling every possible number. Started getting aggravated because most of the numbers weren't good numbers, and that is just part of the business. No matter what skip tracing tool you use, you're going to find disconnected numbers. You're going to find ex-husbands, ex-wives, old renters from the property that may have a tax lien on it, all sorts of things. You'll hear all sorts of stories. But I dug in, I called 95 accounts that second week, 2 days in, and I finally got a hold of the first person.
When you
That
say,
first
because you
person,
say you're saying accounts because you're from the banking industry, but
correct,
you
leads,
mean
leads.
leads. I love
Yes.
it.
Sorry. I call them contact cards as well
There you
because,
go. Contact
there's a
cards.
bunch of
Yeah.
information. But leads, I sat down, started calling leads. I was 95 leads in to that day after 2 or 3 hours. And I got a hold of this gentleman. He said he already had two other offers, crazy offers, just numbers that I didn't even care to hear. But I said, please let me come by the house. Let me take a look at it, and then let me at least make you an offer, even if you don't accept it. The reason I did that was because I wanted to do the steps. I wanted to do the legwork, be able to create a contract, send it out to somebody, follow up with that contract. And long story short, because I'll go on for the whole hour, essentially what I did was he had an offer for 130, an offer for 113, and my offer was 112. Did the research. The numbers don't ever lie. Whatever your method is for finding your numbers, use those numbers and don't make the deal based on what you feel like you want to do. Whatever your numbers are telling you, that's what the numbers are going to be. So I built a relationship with him while I was at the house, and I just kind of explained why I was at the 112. And he accepted my offer over the other two offers because
Wow.
the one that was super high, I kind of I was honest. I said that guy's just trying to lock up the house. He has longer times for inspection, longer times for closing. He's probably going to bail on you last minute or try to negotiate down. He goes, that's kind of what I felt too. So the relationship that I built while I was face to face, and I know a lot of people don't go to see houses. You can't go see the house, but sometimes it is worth going to meet the person who's selling the house and build that relationship. Then I was lucky enough to dispo with April and made it a lot easier on the back end for me.
Sweet. That's awesome. Congratulations. And you have some other leads, like you're going to another house tomorrow, to look
Correct.
at another property. And these are all your cold calling. You're cold calling the leads initially. You're using Data Syndicate, which I
Yep.
did post the link in the chat, Data Syndicate, for your data. And then you're uploading them. And does your CRM have a dialer?
It has, yes, it's a one line dialer. So essentially, what I'm doing is clicking, and if anybody's familiar with Go High Level, there's a little phone symbol up in the top of your lead card. You click that, it drops down to however many phone numbers there are, and you click the number, rings, disconnected, whatever the case may be. You go to the next number and just continue cycling numbers and numbers and numbers. At this point, I think my dashboard says I've called 879 different unique phone numbers out of my 600 leads.
Okay, that's amazing. Okay, so let's think about like what some of your KPIs are. So you've dialed 800 numbers.
Yep.
How many leads do you have? Not closed deals, but like leads in your because we say I like to call like what Data Syndicate is sending to you. I like to call that data, right?
Okay.
I call that data points. I mean, it's kind of all the same. And then I call leads what the people that you actually spoke to,
Okay.
right? Some people will say, no, that's not a lead, right? Don't ever call me again, F off, whatever. That's not a lead. Like actual leads that are in your CRM, how many do you have right now?
Actual leads in my CRM, I am working probably 15 or 17 leads that I've spoken to. I've gone by six houses, including the
Okay.
one that we closed on, but not including other deals that we're working later this week to go by, scheduling different appointments to go see the homes.
Okay, great. Okay, so you said like 865 numbers you called. Is that right? 865.
Yes.
And then divided by, I'm just going to say 17. So that's about 50 numbers per lead. So now you know that you need to dial 50 numbers to get a lead.
Yep.
That's a KPI right there. That's how you figure out your KPIs, right? Now, right now, your lead conversion is pretty high because um you have 17 leads and you got a deal. A lot of times it takes all the way up to 50 leads to get a deal, right?
Yep.
I don't want to say lucky because it wasn't luck. This is going to be continuation, right? You're working the system. You did all the work beforehand. So I tell people too, though, that, it may take you until 50 leads to get a deal, but at that point you might get two, right? Or even three. So sometimes it might take a little bit longer, but to stay with the process. But okay, so you're right now 17 leads to a deal, right? 50 phone numbers to get a lead, 17 leads to a deal. Those are pretty good numbers. And you are going out and meeting with the homeowner, which, yes, not everybody can do that. But I will tell you, I had this deal once. There's a guy here in town, and Jay probably knows, and maybe Wanye knows who he is too. His name's Obi with Freedom Home Buyers. And Obi's been around for a long time. He's not the biggest wholesaler. He's not the best wholesale team, but he's got a team and they're absolutely relentless. And I can't even tell you how many deals I've lost to them where I am sure that they've lost deals to me, but all I remember are the deals that I've lost to them, where my offers were a little bit higher. But I guarantee whoever was on that lead on his team was following up more and building a better relationship. Um, and so there's been, I don't know, maybe in the last 5 years, at least 3 or 4 deals that I've lost to them. Because you got to be relentless in the fall. It doesn't matter if your offer is higher. I had a deal that I made a $40,000 assignment fee where my offer was the lowest, right? Sometimes when your offer is the highest, then you're just creating mistrust, right? And so if you can, like what Nick said, stick by your offer and the numbers don't lie. Um, and I even like I went over the deal with you, like, hey, I think this is how much that I could pay for this lead. So why don't you go in and offer this? So yeah, it worked out really well and we closed today and it's an awesome house and I'm very excited to flip it and I'm excited that Nick got his first deal. So now Nick knows if you want to get 2 leads, you got to call 100 phone numbers. If you want to call 3 leads. So this is how you keep track of your KPIs, guys. How many dials does it take you to get a lead? That's what you want to keep track of. And then how many leads does it take for you to get a deal? So with Nick, it only took 17. Now, it could also be, remember what I was talking about a couple weeks ago? We were talking about door knocking and how I said door knocking is probably the easiest and fastest way to get a lead. It also takes the most time. So I would say, like, what Nick is doing by going out and visiting some of these properties is that it's like almost like a mixture, right? Between door knocking and cold calling. So, no, you do not have to go out to the properties for every single one. If you're virtual, it's totally fine. Um, but it's also possible that if you are sending somebody out there, you are creating some rapport. So good job, Nick. I'm so happy for you, and I'm so happy for me.
I will say I have sent two offers out without seeing the properties. That sub two deal that I was talking to you about on the north side,
Yeah,
that was an offer that I sent out. Still following up with her. But there are ways that, once you have the numbers and I mean, it's a brand new house, 4 years old. So there's not much that you have to really go see at that house.
yeah.
The deal's the deal on that one. But so I have sent out offers without seeing properties.
Does anybody have any questions for Nick? Like that they want to know? Anything that maybe you could ask him. So Adrian says here you can set up Go High Level to where you can upload your list and have the power dial the whole list on autopilot. Yes. So what I say about that, like that's great. And I think that you should do that, especially if you have a VA calling. But the data that Nick is calling is courthouse data. So I think it's also important to have the ability to double and triple dial. Like I told Wanye a couple weeks ago, he's like, hey, it's same thing as you, Nick. He's like, hey, a lot of these numbers, I'm not really sure. Nobody's answering. And he started triple dialing. Had a couple other students do the same thing, and suddenly now they're talking to people, right? Because even when you double dial, people aren't answering. If you can triple dial, so that's where it's good to be able to like just click the numbers. Otherwise, you can put it through autopilot. You just have a better chance of talking to more people if you're triple dialing. And then it's the follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. You have to have a follow up system. That's where you get your deals. I saw a video that somebody made the other day, and they were talking about agent follow up, which we'll move into the agent follow up here in just a second, but you have to follow up with an agent 10 times. because they're going to say no the first 8 times. And then on the ninth time, they're finally going to say, okay, tell me a little bit about this. And then on the 10th time, they're going to be ready to start doing deals with you. So it is very important to be following up, annoyingly so. Follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up, right? Even if they say no to your offer, you don't stop following up until the deal is dead, right? You don't stop following up until they tell you not to call you back. Same thing with the agents. If an agent tells you to F off, I probably wouldn't call them back. However, if they're still talking to you, definitely, definitely call them back. So, sweet deal. Um, yep, that was a good deal. And there's going to be many more behind it for you because you're doing a good job. So, you're 9 to 5. What does that look like with the amount of hours that you're putting in?
As far as working the 9 to 5?
Yeah, so like you have to work
Okay.
your 9 to 5. So what are the hours? Like when are you calling? How many hours a week are you calling?
My 9 to 5 is very flexible because I'm in a automation. So I'm able to log in from home, kind of go to the office, what we call at the big bank getting our badge swipes. We have to go by and make sure on the report that we were in the office for the day. I'm generally working 2 to 5 hours a day at that 9 to 5, but I do have frequent breaks that I'm calling um, 25 leads in between whatever breaks I have. I'm just filling in the time. I generally spend 2 hours a day at this point now because I have a deal done and I'm hungry. 2 hours a day calling the leads to try to find contacts and follow ups. I have a special follow up day Mondays, as Wanye knows. With Data Syndicate, you don't get leads on Mondays because there was nothing recorded on Sundays. So Tuesday really starts your new week.
Oh, that's good
Um,
to know.
yeah, so I generally do all my follow-ups on Monday from the weekend. I don't really like to blow people up on a Sunday unless it's a really hot lead and we've already previously talked that we were gonna, connect on a Sunday. But Saturday at 12, I usually cut off and then I reconnect with people Monday mornings. Again, unless I have something scheduled. So
Okay,
it's
great.
generally 2 hours a day outside of my 9 to 5.
And your leads, your 17 leads that you have now, you have them set up on a drip campaign inside your CRM.
I have them set up and actually in my hit list. My CRM puts them in a hit list once you make contact. So you're and it has a follow up date. You're
Okay.
kind of required. There's no emails or text message that go out during that hit list time. As soon as I pull them from the hit list, they'll start getting back in the rotation for the text campaign and the email campaign that my CRM has built into it.
Okay. And how long have you been doing this? Calling.
I
What's the first day you called?
the the first day I called, well, the first day I got leads was June 17th.
Okay.
I didn't have a CRM until July 1st, which was a holiday week, and I
So
didn't
you
actually
didn't even
start.
make any calls when you got your list. Okay, because you didn't have a
Nope.
way to call.
My cell phone, I could have called, but then July 1st was really when I got my CRM ready to go. Again, I know I reiterated this already, but I stared at my CRM not knowing what to do for the full week.
Right. Yeah.
So it was 12 full dedicated hours once I was calling before I got my first actual contract signed.
Wow. So 12
Yeah,
hours you got your first contract signed. That's
correct.
crazy. That's awesome. I'm happy for you. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and telling your story.
Thank you for
And
having me.
yeah, Nick is here in Jacksonville and he's got his name and his phone number down there if you guys want to get in contact with him and ask him any questions. I'm sure he is more than happy to help. Um, okay, so let's jump into more of the agent outreach that we were talking about last week. We had gotten into a little bit into the script. So I posted the script on my school, and I think that think I tagged it. Yep. And I want to just go over the script a little bit today because there's three ways to do agent outreach. And last week we were talking a lot about, I want to call it cold agent outreach, like looking for deals. And then I'll go over some of the LOI stuff and like where knowing creative finance with agents can help you create relationships. So I sent this out, posted it in my school. If you guys are not in my school, then I'll go ahead and post the post the link here. But I have a lot of free resources here in my school. And so go back to there we go. Sorry, I'm just gonna post this in the chat real quick before I forget. So if you're not in my school, go join my school. I post a lot of free resources in there. Here is a direct to agent script. So if you're building this as a lead generation source, you want to know that there are three different ways that you can reach out to agents. Even if you're doing direct to seller, like Nick is doing, this is something that you can at some point add as a free marketing channel. We talked a lot about that last week. There are people who have built whole entire businesses just around direct to agent. So I put this script in there. We basically have three different scripts. I would say one of them is just reaching out. So last week we talked about reaching out to agents who might have a potential deal. And what that looks like is going into PropStream and pulling a list of agents out of PropStream, and you should be able to, from PropStream, get their phone number and their email address. So you can email agents and you can send them text messages. Calling agents wouldn't necessarily be cold calling because you're not trying to sell them anything. You're just trying to work with them. So the script for calling agents, well, not sending a blind offer, cold calling agents for deals. Because we were talking about this last week and people were asking me, hey, what do you say? And this is kind of what we say, right? So, hey, and what's great about calling agents is that it's not, I know you're cold calling the agent, but it's not really cold calling someone like a seller, right? Usually agents are going to want to talk to you and they're going to want to hear what you have to say. However, they might not the very first time you call them. You're going to have to call them over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? That's what I said, 10 times. Can you triple dial? Can you quadruple dial so that people answer? You got to get uncomfortable. And it's the same thing here when you're dealing with agents. Um, it's real easy. I'm looking to buy a house in the area, hopefully within the next 45 to 60 days. Do you have any listings coming up? Do you have any motivated sellers? I'm an investor. We're looking for fix and flips. You kind of want to have your buy box available. And if they don't have a lead, you want to ask them if you can stay in touch with them. Um, so this is how you start creating leads, relationships with agents. Now, you want to make sure that you also have a CRM for your agent list. So if you talk to this agent and you had a good conversation and they said, "Hey, I don't have any listings right now, but I'll keep you in mind." Well, they're not going to keep you in mind. They only talk to you once. You're going to have to call them over and over and over and over and over again. Same thing, right? Hey, do you have anything? Do you have anything coming up? I'm still looking to buy. Do you have anything coming up? And just sending them texts. You can set up automations in CRM or have it like you don't have to have a CRM. You can just have a spreadsheet. I see my friend Alex is on here and you should see his spreadsheets that he makes. They're amazing. And that's what he uses. And it's like, oh my gosh, the craziest spreadsheets I've ever seen. He says he does them through ChatGTP, but I still wouldn't even know how to do it if I did it through ChatGTP. So again, free lead system. You don't have to have a CRM but you just want to make sure that you're following up. So this is the same thing, right? You want to follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. So if you're doing, say Nick's doing direct to seller right now, I would say, Nick, you want to get 3 to 5 deals before you start even thinking about adding a marketing channel. And when you add another marketing channel, you're going to add one at a time. So let's say that he got his 3 to 5 deals and then he came over and now he's going to do agents, right? Because maybe now he's able to hire somebody to do the actual dials, right? So you want to make sure that you're focusing in on one thing. So if you're listening to this today, because I see a lot of you on here and I know that you're doing cold calling and I know you're direct to seller, and I don't want to give you shiny object syndrome here. But this is definitely something that you should add to your marketing channels. If you're not doing this, you're missing out on free leads. I mean, this is where I get most of my leads is from agents, and it's free. The other half of my leads, I would say I get from wholesalers or I get from you guys, right? Most of my leads that I get now are free. I don't even pay for my leads anymore. So I'm just if you're watching this and you're already doing your cold calling and I want you to focus in on the direct to seller. I want you to get 3 to 5 deals before you think about bringing somebody on to make your calls for you. Once you have somebody on that's maybe doing the cold calling and sending you the leads, now you're going to free up time to generate leads in another marketing channel. But you can't ever stop generating leads in your first marketing channel, or you're never going to get any deals. So it's the same thing here when you're cold calling agents. If you called 100 agents a week, right? And same thing, you want to keep your KPIs. Maybe you talk to 10, right? And one of them is going to send you a deal. The goal that you would want to have is to make one agent friend a month that's going to send you one deal a month in the first year. So that would be 12 deals that an agent sends you. Then the second year, maybe you make one more agent friend a month, and no agent is going to send you. I'm not saying no agent. I shouldn't say that. I should say most agents are not going to be sending you 10 deals in a year. I would say 2 to 3 at the max. But these people are on the front lines. And if they understand what you're doing and they know that they can make more money off of a dead deal, it's the same thing when you're calling wholesalers. A lot of these people, you want to make friends with them because they're sitting in front of sellers and they know they can't do anything for this seller. The seller has to close in 2 weeks. They're in foreclosure. It's got liens on the property. You want to be the one that they think of to call for help for the seller. That's what you're cold calling here for. That's this part. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about creative finance offers with agents. Because it's a really good opportunity in this market. Is anybody flipping? Has anybody ever flipped in this group? Anybody flipping? Yes, you flipped. Okay. So I was saying last week that anytime that I list one of my flips, I'm getting an email with a sub two offer. So if you flip, you know that houses are sitting on the market longer, and it is a great opportunity to talk to agents that have listings that have been sitting for longer than 4 months. Now, I don't know, 4 months is almost average, getting there, but hold on. Somebody had a question, Michael. What about getting an email distribution list with an agent? Yeah, you can get an email distribution list off a PropStream. If you pull a list off PropStream of agents in an area, it will come with their email. You just have to go through the settings and say that you want to show the email, and then you can just send out mass emails. Now, you might not be able to send out a mass email through Google with more than a certain amount. So if you're going to be sending out mass emails, I would get like a MailChimp or something like that. That's really cheap. And you can send out mass emails that way. Um, but yeah, I think though that you can send out, it's kind of like the LOI blaster, the letter of intent blaster. You can send out emails, and it's also good to make sure that you're following up with a call
April?
because a lot of people will like delete their email, right? They'll delete their email. And so if you're following up with a call, that's even better. Um,
I think you misunderstood my question.
oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Unmute. Sorry.
I was asking about once you speak to an agent, having them email properties that fit your description as far as what you're looking for.
Oh, yeah. Of course. Yes, absolutely. Um, so what you can do is you can say when you're talking to them, do you have any current listings that match what I'm looking for? And then ask them to send you their current listings. And then you can always call them back, and start asking them questions and even making offers. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's in the script too. Let me go back to the script and see. Because I think there was and this is in my school too, so you guys can upload this. Um, let's pull this up. So cold calling agents. Yeah. Um, do you have any listings coming up or you could say any current listings that have motivated sellers and then ask them to email you your listing. Um, and then just let them know like, hey, I'm here in Jacksonville, I'm a local investor or whatever, like I'm an investor and we're looking for more deals. Um, and just you're just trying to create a relationship because if you buy deals from them, they get paid. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. It's just you're probably going to have to prove yourself first, right? So you want to make relationships with the right agents and make sure that you're following up. Here's a script about calling about a specific listing. A lot of times what I do now, if calling about a specific listing, the only time I really call is if I'm going to do a creative finance offer or like a sub two offer. If I see a listing, that's now I'm not an agent. So if I see a listing that I really want to buy and it's a cash deal, usually what I'll do is I'll have my agent call their agent. But that's because I am a direct buyer. Now you can get like listed MLS properties under contract to wholesale, and I will buy them. I don't care as long as the numbers are good because people email me all the time and they say, "Would you still buy a listed property?" Now, don't be dumb. Don't get a property under contract that's listed at 150 for 175 and then, try to sell it for, 190 when we see that it was listed for 150 or that's under contract for 150, right? So that's the only thing is that you just have to have your numbers right, right? Like I've had people send me the most ridiculous on market listings and it always just makes me feel bad for the seller. Um, and so you are going to make mistakes. Don't get, don't like I've made mistakes. I've gotten contracts under for too high and I couldn't buy it and no one else could buy it and it's very unfortunate. So you know that that will probably happen at some point in your career and I would just say just try to be honorable and get out as quickly as you possibly can and not keep the seller under contract for a long time if you know that you made a mistake.
April, I do
Um,
have a question regarding at your price point.
yeah.
Where are you typically buying on properties that are on the MLS? Because I've had that problem where you mentioned if you buy too high, the end buyer, is looking for that 70, 65, 70. I've seen as high as 75. So where are you in that range as far as your criteria as far as buying on market?
I mean, the numbers just have to work. If it's a distressed property, so I'm not looking to buy rentals, right? And then if it's a property that is retail, I would be interested in buying it creative. Otherwise, I'm gonna do a cash house, fully renovated cash house at 75%, and most people aren't interested in that. So when I'm looking at a distressed property that's listed, and I have bought several listed distressed properties before, um, I just run my numbers, right? So for every investor is going to be a little bit different. So for me, when I am looking at a flip, I want to be at a profit margin of 10 to 12% all in. There are some people who would say, I'm not buying a deal unless I'm at a 20% profit margin. Now I flip on it in volume, and so I can be a little bit more risky in my profit margin so that it makes me a little bit more competitive as a buyer. Now, when I say that, when I say 10 to 12% all in, I mean 10 to 12% after all expenses, I mean renovation, holding costs, closing costs, agent fees, like everything, right? So I have a spreadsheet, I plug everything in. And I mean, it's the same thing that I kind of did with Nick, right? Like I just plugged everything in and I said, hey, this is the number that I can be at. Why don't you go see if you can get it at this price? And then that way, like you make this much money. Um, so I think that your best bet would be to, and this is how I do a quick underwriting. I do a quick underwriting at 75% of ARV. So I will calculate ARV. I calculate 75% of ARV, and then I subtract the renovation costs. And that's kind of a gut check. That's just a gut check of, okay, the seller is at this price. Let's say that, the 75% minus renovation cost puts you at 120 and the seller's saying they're at 130. That just tells me that I need to do a little bit more of a deep dive into the numbers to see where I need to be, right? Because you're also going to need to put in your assignment fee there. So if the seller is asking 130 and you're at 120, okay, and this is on market, you might need to go in, with the agent and say, I can give you 110, and pay all closing costs and see if they'll accept that. And then you could come to somebody like me or some of your buyers and you could say, I have this property for 120 and it was listed for 130. So, you know, that would be, and if the numbers work for me at 120, then I'll pay the 120. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Um,
Not to
it
interrupt, but I always use 70%. So
70.
you'll always be an end buyer for me if you're at 75.
Yes. Love it. So that's even more conservative. There might be times where to be like a little bit more competitive, he might have to go up to 75%. Really it's just going to be about your credibility, right? I very rarely even have to give. Now with agents I have to give proof of funds, but with sellers I very rarely have to give proof of funds because they just create credibility with the sellers, and they don't ask for it. But it is going to just be about credibility and just making as many offers as you can. And if what you can do is you can go into your market, ask an agent to build you a list of listings that you'll get an email every single day. I get an email every single day with my criteria. So the zip codes that I want to be in, and I'm looking for words like as is, motivated seller, you know, I don't know. I have a whole bunch of words and they're not coming to my head right now, but I'll get, every single night I'll get my buy box of new and reduced priced houses that come into my buy box, right? Now, you could be getting that email list every single night and shooting out offers, right? Like just by looking at the listing, you can shoot out offers. The more offers that you make, the better. That would be like a blind offer through an LOI. And so their script is in here too. So following up after you send a blind offer. So let's say that you got 10 listings on Tuesday night of new properties they're all in distress. They all meet your buy box. I would be wanting to send the agent an email and giving them what my cash offer was, and then the next day calling every single one of those agents. So you just made 10 offers, right? And now you're calling those agents and you're finding out, if it's viable. Um, for Geraldine says, for proof of funds, working with agents, submitting proof of funds, do we need to get with a lender before we send the offer? And Geraldine, I did get your text message and I'm going to text you back. I just haven't had a chance. Um, but I just want you to know I am going to text you back. I saw it earlier and I've just been insanely busy. But for proof of funds, if you're wholesaling, I would just if you don't have a proof of funds, then I would be working with a buyer. So I would, if Nick was like, "Hey, April, I'm working with this agent and they need proof of funds." I mean, I'm sure Nick could probably give him, being that he's building 20 apartments. Um, but I would just work with someone who has a proof of funds. Now, I know that a lot of people shit on best transactional funding, but I have proof of funds and I still use them and it always works. Have you guys heard of them? Best transactional funding? Hold on, let me see if I can pull them up. I've seen a lot of people be like, "You're sending me best transactional funding. That's fake, blah, blah, blah." It's really not fake. It's not fake at all. They're transactional funding. So they do double closes. So you come here, it's best transaction funding. I click on proof of funds, come over here to proof of funds, and I send it out, fill it out. Let's just say whatever. Property address is 4770 San Jose Manor Drive West, Jacksonville. Okay, 32217. My offer. So what I would do is if I was offering 150, I'd put 150 in here. Need another zero. And I put company only. My company is 12 Oaks. Click here, submit, and then I'll pull it up for you in just a second. It only takes a second and you get that proof of funds. So I think it's amazing to use that um, as long as you know that you're getting it at a good price. Now, Geraldine said, my biggest fear is getting a house under contract for the wrong price. And I'm like, that's great. It means you care, right? You're not just trying to win the deal. I would say that would mean you just made a mistake. Um, I think that there are ways to work with buyers so that doesn't happen to you. And me personally, I know cutthroat wholesalers around here that do tons and tons and tons of deals. And every single time they close a deal, they go ask for a reduction the day of closing. Every single deal. And they probably do like 30 deals a month. And they're like, that's even if we only get $1,000 reduction, that's 30 extra $1,000 a month in their pocket. And most of the time they get more. I don't like that and I wouldn't do it, but I don't judge them for doing it. I'm like, by all means, you do you, right? So, I mean, it's kind of the same thing with the proof of funds. There's a lot of people out there that are like, "Oh, you're committing fraud." I do not believe that. These are real transactional lenders. You can apply for loans with them and they can do double closes for you. So I don't think it is fraudulent because they are real transactional funders. All right, let me go over here and I'm going to pull up this proof of funds. It's pretty sweet. So there you go. There's the address. They can even call the number and someone will answer. For 12 Oaks Holdings, 150. And that's that. So that's what I use for my proof of funds. Yes, and Michael was even saying utilize the inspection period. You know, there's even people who will try to get a 30-day inspection period so that they can stay under contract for 30 days and then back out the day before. It's totally up to you. It's however you want to run your business. I try not to do that. I don't like not holding to my word, and I like to close at the number that I say I'm going to close at. I do not judge anybody how they want to run their business. Um, because I know a lot of successful people that do some stuff like that. Just however you want to run your own business. Okay. So then we were going to move into doing some creative finance offers on the script. That's where the LOI comes into place. This is something that you can pull listings that have been on the market for 120 days. I did say that I was going to do the pull the listings today, but I keep forgetting to get into my prop stream. Pull listings for, hold on just a second. I'm trying to buy this deal and this wholesaler is texting me. Listings that have all been on the market for 120 days, and you start there and you start calling those agents and talking about creative finance offers. And let's see, I don't know, is this one on my script? I might need to do a script for creative finance offers. Let me see.
April, I have a
Yes,
question.
go ahead.
So are you finding that agents are more open to the creative financing? Because I know at one point it's like you mentioned creative and they're already getting you off the phone. So are you finding as time is going on and things are staying on the market longer that they're starting to be open or more open to the creative?
Yeah, so I feel like what I do when I call these lists is I just specifically say, I am willing to put in an offer at full price if your seller can take payments. And then, be quiet and pause and let them just be like, absolutely not. And then, just say, okay, is there any reason, why have they been presented this offer before? I think you're going to get both, right? I think you're going to get people who are like, F off, we don't want to have anything to do with this. And then you're going to get people who want to know more, and it might not work out for their client, but at least you're giving them some sort of offer. And, the agents are supposed to give them the offers. I don't really like to write LOIs. I've never used it, what I call an LOI blaster. I would say is the system that Pace has is called LOI Blaster, and it just shoots out hundreds of LOIs, so it shoots out hundreds of offers. I particularly don't use that. I like to send out LOIs and make calls. I think that a lot of these agents are getting tons and tons and tons of those offers, and there's not really a personality to it. It's kind of like, unless you're going to be doing that every day, sending out, 2,000 a day and calling 100 agents a day. But if you're like a one-man band, I think I like it to compare it to door knocking when you can actually follow up with a phone call and explain it to them, because a lot of agents will just delete it or forward it on and be like, oh, I got to forward this to you. And they don't necessarily understand it and they could be passing up a good opportunity. It's just about the follow up, just over and over. But yes, over time. I think I talked about this a little bit last week that Nick has a guy that is his friend. I don't know if he's an agent or not. Maybe. Oh, I don't, is he the agent or no? He's just the seller.
Yeah.
He ended
Um,
up
um,
getting a cash offer though, right?
oh, yeah, no, a guy I know from work. He was trying to sell. He's now FISBO and he's trying to sell it on his own. He's fired his agent.
That's hilarious. Okay.
And
So
he's
he
he's
still
down
could
to
come back to
162
you.
officially. Correct. It's
And our
yes.
cash offer was 130.
Yeah. So until he rents it, officially hires a property management company and rents there's still a chance on that one.
Yeah.
I've left him alone. I stop bothering him. He walks by me in the hallway. I wave to him, and I don't even talk real estate to him.
Yeah, we'll let him bring it back up to you then. Yeah, so I think it's funny because when we first introduced creative financing to this guy, he was like, "Yeah, no." And then he kind of came back and he was like, "Well, could you do this?" Like, "Nope. We already, we gave you our offer and we filled out this LOI. Did we fill out this LOI or did I just do an email? I
You
think I
just
just
shot him an email, but it was the LOI structure kind of. It gave
sometimes
him the
I
three
do that.
offers.
Yeah, sometimes I do that. I just shoot it in an email instead of filling this out when I don't have all the specific details. So I didn't have a mortgage statement, so I wasn't able to, structure a payment. And in that case, when people just want to hear like, okay, what can we do? I kind of just do like an outline, like, okay, here's, a seller financing and here's a cash offer. But this is a really good way to create relationships with agents, sending them these because they're able to see something on paper and then they're able to present it to their seller, right? So it's either seller financing, sub two, hybrid, which would be a combination of the two. Now, make sure when you say the purchase price that you're including the purchase, right? So that would also be the down payment, whatever you're paying to the seller, plus whatever the mortgage balance is. Um, Cash to seller, seller carryback. If you don't know what seller carryback, and this LOI is on my school, so you guys can have this. Seller carryback is whatever the seller is going to finance. Um, principal and interest. So a lot of times, when you're doing a hybrid, it's probably going to be principal only. Um, Anyways, monthly payment to seller. See, I didn't have any of this information, and sometimes I don't. So that's why sometimes I'll just structure an email. But this is the most important thing I think is always, always, always put your cash offer here too. So when you are dealing with people who have these on-market listings, you want them to see like, hey, I can get you this full purchase price, but here's my cash offer. And
And
that's what
April,
that, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, just to verify, so you're sending the LOI after you've had the initial conversation with them?
Hmm.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
how I do it. I call, I have the conversation, I get the information, and I fill this out. If I don't have all of the information, then I shoot them, a basic email telling them, what the offer would look like. But that I would definitely need a mortgage statement in order to structure the offer correctly and get all the numbers. So if you're dealing with a sub two and you're talking to an agent and you're talking or a seller or whatever, you're always, always, always going to need to get a mortgage statement. And if anybody's in here and they don't really know what I'm talking about as far as sub two, I'm talking about purchasing a property with the mortgage still in place. It's called subject to. So you can actually purchase a property with any lien on it. I could purchase a property with a contractor lien on it. I would just be purchasing it subject to the contractor lien. And I would have to, before I sell it, pay that contractor lien, or that contractor could probably foreclose on me, right? But you can buy subject to anything, and a mortgage is considered a lien. So you could buy the property subject to. Michael says, is it best to master wholesaling first before adding a creative deal structuring? I don't think so. I think that you could be missing out on deals if you don't at least try. So when I first started wholesaling, my very first deal was a sub two flip, and I had no idea what I was talking about. And I would have missed out on my very first deal if I hadn't just jumped in and then went and asked for help. That's the first thing I did. I explained it briefly what I knew about it, and the reason why I knew anything about it was from watching videos on YouTube. And I was kind of like, this is interesting. And I went and I met with the seller, and it was a situation where they were going to have to bring money to the table, and it was going to be somewhere between five and $10,000. But I said to them, what if I purchase your property with the mortgage still in place? This way I don't have to go out and get financing. And then when I go to sell the property after I flip it, your mortgage will be paid off. And you won't have to come to the table with five or $10,000. In fact, I'll give you $1,000 to be able to move. And they were like, "What?" And I don't know. I don't even know if I was saying it right. But immediately I went back to my house and I got online and I found a local guy that knew how to do creative finance deals. And he walked me through the whole entire deal. And he actually didn't even ask me to JV. He just said, "Hey, can you just give me $500 of the assignment fee?" Which was like, I can't remember, maybe it was 3,500. And I was like, absolutely, no problem. I didn't even really understand the whole JV process at the point, but I got my first deal without knowing anything about creative finance, and it was a creative finance deal. And that's actually what started my journey into creative finance. And I love creative finance, but I also love cash deals. So I do all my flips are cash deals. Um, some of my properties that I own are refinanced bank loans, and then some of them are creative finance. I just think that creative finance opens up another world, and if you don't quite understand it, you can kind of talk about it and then go find somebody who is an expert and who can help you walk you through the process. And then you learn as you go. I really think that creative financing is just another tool. It's another exit strategy. You can either exit cash or you can exit creative finance. And so just to have another tool in your toolbox as you're on this wholesale journey is going to improve your profits. There is a wholesale company here that I'm pretty sure almost every single deal that they do is creative finance, and they do like 15 to 20 deals a month, and pretty much every single one of them is creative finance. And then there's another company around here that all they do is cash. They don't do any creative. But I think they're missing out. They're missing out on a lot more deals that they could do. So cool. All right, guys. Well, it's 4:30, so I'm going to end the call here. Does anybody have any questions about what we talked about today? Lead generation with agents and LOI. So though that script and that LOI is in the school, so you guys can have those. If anybody else has any other questions. Yes, Wanye, I need to do that. I'm so sorry. I kept forgetting. Wanye won a one-on-one with me when we hit 1,000 members, and he gave it away. And I already did my one-on-one with that guy, but then I forgot to send Wanye my calendar. So now he gets his because I told him, I'm like, you're too nice, so I'm gonna let you have a one-on-one with me for free. So gonna get that out to you, my friend. All right, guys, thanks for coming on. We'll be back here next week talking about more lead generation, and I look forward to seeing you all here again.